I sort of want to run around and listen to all the little smaller conversations to hear what people are processing. Someone asked if I would tell my story. It was something that came up the last time I was here, and I said I would do a little bit, and so I'm going to do a little bit again, and I think I'm going to do it right now, and then we'll push on to the rest of the material. So I was adopted when I was 6 months old into a conservative Mennonite family from the Lancaster, Pennsylvania area. And it was not a great life. The abuse started by the time I was 2 with my dad, and it lasted on, I know, it's just, they're never things that you want to say out loud about your own journey. Lasted until I was about 20, when I finally hit therapy. I finally realized that I could actually say no. I didn't know that I could say no. I'd never been given that option. So there was a lot of work to do. I feel like every physical not every physical, every psychological boundary that my therapist had that we should have when we're whole adults, I had to crash through in order to learn what a boundary looked like. Like, okay, that's not an appropriate question, Joy. And she never punished me. She never shamed me. In 37, I'm still with her. I'm still learning about myself and still learning how to live a peaceful life after a very violent childhood. I attempted to tell when I was in second grade, and a note was sent home with me from school. I'm 59, so that was in the 1970s, I think. A note was sent home with me saying that Joy told us that her family is hurting her. That was the best, when it's happening to you and you don't even know what it is, you don't have much language. I'm convinced that's part of why young kids don't tell, because they have no idea what to say. So my dad read the note out loud to the whole family. I had 2 siblings and a mother, and they laughed at the table. And then he threatened me, and I knew he'd been physically violent as well as sexually violent. He wasn't to be trusted, and he was not to be played with. There would be recrimination so I never ever tried to tell again. A gift has been reconnecting to several, especially my elementary school teachers. They knew something was wrong. They knew I was seeking affection. I had my 8th grade teacher apologize for me for not knowing that it was a sexual abuse, and I was just like, if I wasn't acting it out, if I wasn't if I wasn't writing about it for my English papers, if my boundaries with other kids didn't seem really wonky, there's no way that she could know. We can't get in under people's skin and know what they're thinking. But there is a circle of light. Some elementary school teachers who saw good in me and encouraged me when at home there was nothing really like encouragement. I was really interested in psychology, partly because I wanted to try to understand what the heck was going on inside me. I am a person who forgot 99% of the trauma, and so going to therapy and having my first flashback, I always knew that something had gone terribly wrong, but I didn't really have more detail than that. My dad told me that I didn't have a soul, that I didn't have the capacity to know the difference between right and wrong, and I believed him until I got into treatment, and my therapist said, well, that's a lie. We all are given a conscience. We all have a connection to God and to self, and typically we do know when we're doing some harm. So figuring that out, there was a very precise point in my journey where I knew that I did not want to be like my dad and I did not want to do harm, and that I couldn't just stay on this weird metaphorical fence between the light and the dark. And Jesus was the light, and Jesus suffered without any fault of his own. Jesus had scars. And I did actually study Buddhism and Hinduism to a certain degree because I knew I wanted spiritual practice, but the Mennonite family that I grew up in, that religion didn't make much sense. It was very confusing. Um, and the reason I'm a Christian is not because of my parents, but because I had a therapist who was willing to enter my suffering, who was willing to be inconvenienced to help me stay safe and not do any more harm that had already been done. Something I've done recently that has been a gift was to reach out to the 5 women who were in my elementary school that came often to my house for overnights. And none of them have any fear reactions around being in my house. None of them have any negative memories with my dad. I don't know what I would have done if he had done something, but I would rather give people an option of speaking the truth, than to not. So it was a gift in a way to me that my dad didn't do those things to my other friends, that they were not scarred the way I was. And it's the reason I do what I do now. Where else should I be but among people who are wrestling with, what happened to me, and how do I go on with life, and what does it mean, whatever did happen, what does it mean for my relationships? Is there hope, or is there just darkness? And I've really been, when I lived in Cambodia, the person who was my taxi driver, he fixed the wiring in my house, he changed my flat tires, he fixed other stuff in my house, he could strip his entire engine down and rebuild it in a day. If he had grown up in America, he would have had multiple businesses by the time I met him, because he was extremely efficient, and he was even willing to change. In Cambodia, nobody is time-centered. Everybody is event-centered, and it doesn't matter when you show up. It just matters that you do. And he was willing to shift his behavior for me, because if I said I need to be picked up at 5:15, I was out on the street waiting for him, and he got a fare. So he was an interesting guy and made me think very seriously about the privilege of living in the U.S. And even if you can go into a lot of debt to go to college, but I had the option, I had the capacity to go and get a degree and try to make some difference in the world that we live in. I love what I do now. It feels like everything I've ever done in my life as a case manager, first as a person who lived and worked among people who were cognitively disabled in Pennsylvania, to being a case manager, to go into grad school and learning as much as I could about the brain, to walking with trauma survivors inside and outside of juvenile hall in San Francisco and meeting many trauma survivors in Phnom Penh, Cambodia, who never recognized that what had happened to them was actually a source of trauma, and that it has impacted them distinctively. And now to do that work here. So it's a huge gift and a privilege to be with you. The truth will set you free. And there's so much that we know, and there's so much that we don't know. And so having learning opportunities like this, man, I'm all in. I learn from you as you learn, hopefully, some things from me. So that's the short version. Every time I tell it, it comes out different. Yeah, you're welcome. It is a story of redemption. That is true. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. Okay, we're going to do a little more with safety and danger in this last hour. First of all, before we do anything else, are there questions from our last hour and 15 minutes together? Okay, well, you know how to stop me if something comes up.
I want to make a comment.
Yeah.
Just the importance of early trauma and this thing called implicit memory, where we don't have a clear memory,
Yes.
but we have a sense that there's something terribly amiss.
Yes.
And that, particularly like with neglect or whatever, neglect is
Yes.
and you're not aware that you're missing something that you've never received.
That's right.
Because that's your fault.
Yes.
So just
It's huge.
and how that relates to the difficulty of it.
Everything else, right? Yeah, I have a friend, she just passed about 2 years ago in her 80s. She was like 4'9". She was so tiny I could pick her up if I needed to. She had a huge heart and brain. She never was able to remember whatever happened. She had all the symptoms of somebody who had been sexually abused. And she never got the memories back, and it was a conversation that we had with some regularity. Because I did. I know a lot. Maybe I don't know everything, but I know a lot of what happened to me, and I can make conscious choices then about that material, what to do with that. And when you don't have it, it can make you feel crazy. Because you have these patterns that are clear, you have beliefs and reactions that you know are coming from somewhere inside of you, but you can't nail it down to a story. And it's really hard. And a lot of people go through the rest of their lives actually not knowing that that story is there.
Right. And just like your story, like to me, I hear complex PTSD.
Yep.
Like, there's a whole gamut of symptoms,
Yep.
reactions, whatever that in some ways you don't have control over because
Right.
it is a automatic reaction
Yeah.
to the situation.
Yeah.
I was just thinking too about the value of being safe people.
Say that again, the value of.
Being safe people.
Yes.
In regards to this specifically.
Yes.
It would be easy to tell someone, well, it's ridiculous. How could you have anxiety or fear over a cup of coffee?
Yes.
We don't know, so we have to be curious and we have to be the safe people in the situation.
Yes.
And then understand, someone could also misunderstand what we are posing as safety.
Right.
So yeah, just we just don't know.
We don't know. Even when we haven't had implicit, even when there hasn't been trauma that never gets a name, it's still the case that we live with triggers. And there's some people that I'm more likely to move towards, and other people that I might move away from, and I might not really, it might take me till I'm 80 to figure out that that person reminded me of so-and-so. And I didn't like that person very much, even when I was 5. And so the choice to be safe people, the choice to be more curious than I need to put a label on this. I need to put a Bible verse on that. The statement that I dislike the most when I do tell a piece of my story because I'm asked to, yeah, but you're okay now, right? It's the worst thing they could say. Just say, thank you for telling your story. You just told me that you want to make sure that if I'm not okay, I'm not going to try to lean on you. And someone did that recently who's a therapist and should know better. Not my therapist. Oh my goodness. Yeah. It matters. It matters as much as we can to be safe, to receive individuals. I mean, this is what Jesus did. The woman at the well, the man that's lying beside the pool where the angel comes and bubbles the water and somebody gets healed, but he can't walk. So he's never going to get into that water fast enough. Come and see the man who knows everything I've ever done. That is a profound safety and a profound, it's the deep integrity of caring about someone else's story and not judging but loving. Really. Yeah, I could preach a long time. I really feel like in the stories of Jesus that we see a man who knew the limitations and boundaries in his community, and then he also knew the heart of the broken. And he was moving towards that brokenness. When I worked in interchange, we talked about downward mobility. I had a PhD, but I was willing to live in a house that the sewer rats thought was a superhighway. And roaches lived in my walls. That was downward mobility. Choosing to live as the people that I was loving. But we don't really ever talk about it in the Gospels. We mostly talk about how Jesus is drawn to people on the edges, which is true. But the centurion shows downward mobility. He has the control of many men, and he lays that aside and comes to Jesus and asks for healing for his daughter. I also think that's a profound story because Jesus's power, love, safeness, I don't know what it all was. That man could lay aside his authority, and it says he recognized Jesus as one who also had authority. That's powerful. Okay, I'm going to stop preaching now. I love the stories of Jesus. I really do think they show us the way if we can dig our hands into it and think about how does that relate to where I am and what I do right now.
The question was asked earlier, how do we increase our capacity for sitting with the woe of another?
How do we increase our capacity for sitting with the woe of somebody else? What say you? How have you increased your capacity to sit with those who are in great need, and there might not be any answers to the things they're wrestling with?
Just knowing that I can't fix people, but I can point them to Jesus.
Mhm.
And I can, take the pressure off.
I can't fix other people, but I can take them to Jesus. That takes the pressure off. Were you going to respond? No. Sorry, you had your hand over your head. Somebody in the back.
Perhaps pray that the Lord would give us a curiosity to help us understand who choose when we
Yes.
we've heard the same story many times.
Yes. So that God would give us new curiosity to hear the clues. Is that what you said? Yeah. Yeah, to not shut down, to hear a hard story and not just instantaneously take that person and put them over here in this box.
I love the example of Jesus at the tomb of Lazarus looking around. And I think sometimes we just need to sit and weep.
Yes. Yes.
In distress, not have answers,
Yes.
not try to get out of it or get away, just sit
Yes.
and weep.
I think a lot of what we have to offer is what the disciples were not able to do in the garden. Presence, he said, stay awake and pray with me. Presence and prayer, and then all of whatever your clinical knowledge is, the capacity to use what you know to see somebody as a whole individual who isn't just defined someone said, not defined by the worst thing I've ever done. That's true for everybody else too, right? If you are a murderer, and I have a friend who is a murderer, and yet God has worked mighty things in his life. And somehow it's not my job actually to hold them together. I would love to see him reach a point where he can be more honest to the people that he harmed, but that's not my job. I can pray for that. How do you develop the capacity?
Sorry, I was about to switch gears. So,
Oh, you want to switch gears?
well, I just want to know, how do you process coming to a conservative Christian community like this to do this training when, to me, it's the culture that failed you?
I mean, you're not that neighborhood, right? You're here, and I'm not from here. The communities that fail young men and women and children all the time, I do know that part of it is that there's not enough conversation being stimulated about harm and repair and rupture. And so if I can bring pieces of that to a community, then I've had a unique opportunity to share what I know and share lots of references because so much of it is other people's work. But I guess I don't hold other Plain communities responsible, I guess is what I would say. I hate what my dad did, and I also had an experience, sort of like a vision, where I was walking towards the cross, and Jesus was no longer on the cross, but he was there, and there was a gate that could be closed or open. And he said, if you bar the gate for Mabel and Stanley Kreider, who harmed you, you're not welcome here either. The ground is level at the cross. And so I try to live into that.
That's the beauty of what Jesus did.
Mm-hmm. Indeed.
Does.
And does. That's right.
A little bit of an answer to this question would be, if we come to the knowledge and the truth of Jesus Christ,
Mm-hmm.
what will we really want to do? We will want to go and spread
Right.
the word and the truth.
Right.
And we've been through a mission thing called Perspectives,
Mm-hmm.
and what they taught.
Familiar with it.
Okay. You gotta prepare to go to the culture. You gotta prepare yourself before you go in if you wanna be really effective.
Mm-hmm.
Now, for me, what I can do, what I see up through that is, if I wanna go in the mission field, I already know the culture where I came from.
Mm-hmm.
And I know their language, I know their heart, I know what they're
Right.
looking for and everything. So where am I best prepared to go?
Mm-hmm. So where am I best prepared to go in mission, that what we know through the truth and compassion of Jesus Christ, we have the ability to carry that somewhere. And that location might be close to home, or it could be far away. And it's also our responsibility to, if we don't know that culture, to learn about that culture before we go. Yeah, thank you. Other comments or questions?
I thought of three tools that help us build.
Let's do it.
capacity. One is to pursue our own healing. So we will keep being healed until Jesus comes back, until we see
Amen.
him face to face. The other one is we can continue to grow in joy. That's one part of our brain that can keep growing even when we're 50, 60, or 70.
That's right.
And And I think it's also helpful to find someone upstream from us, someone who has capacity and that can help us mature. And
Right.
I have a mentor who laughs when things get hard. Well,
Yep.
I'm grateful for a mentor like that because I don't do that naturally.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, so doing our own healing, finding a mentor, a friend who is out beyond us and was earth. Oh, and joy.
Just growing in joy.
Growing in joy, learning how to feel. I mean, the joy of the Lord is my strength. I mean, right? Like, you might be annoyed by that childhood song, but it's also actually potentially true. Other comments about capacity or anything else we just said?
So, when I'm thinking about the question of how do we develop capacity, and one of the things that strikes me as I think about this is if you're going to develop capacity, you first have to have a willingness.
Mm-hmm.
And let me illustrate
Mm-hmm.
something that's very painful to me and what I'm talking about, because I think you'll understand. So, one of the reasons you have the capacity to do what you're doing is because you have experiences that have developed, you have allowed to develop this capacity. And so if you sit down with somebody who has a similar experience, there's empathy that you bring to that conversation that is, I would argue, almost impossible to develop any other way. They're sitting in this room, someone I consider a good friend. And years ago, our friends lost a child. And I was not present at the funeral because I had what I felt like were conflicting responsibilities. Some years later, we lost a child. And those friends came to our child's funeral. And what was so jarring to me was the realization that I absolutely had no idea what somebody goes through
Yeah.
who goes through that kind of an experience. And I think that there's something about sharing those experiences that creates capacity, or maybe I should say, gives us the opportunity to develop that capacity that nothing else does.
Yeah. So the reflection about capacity, that if there have been hard things in our own lives, that doing the work around that opens something inside of us to sit with other people. And in your own story, not going to the funeral of a friend who lost a child, and then that person came to the funeral of your child, and just where ignorance, understanding, experience, capacity. Yeah. I don't know how many years, when you get a PhD in psychology and clinical psychology, I don't know how many years extra you have to do therapy where you have a supervisor. But one of the reasons people say that sometimes PhDs are more knowledgeable is actually simply the time. The longer you sit with people who are coming to talk about hard things, the more experiences you at least know about, even if it's not my experience. If I can sit with you and feel your grief and contemplate what it would be like to have that loss, I also think we can build empathy that way as well. And so the willingness to simply sit and listen, maybe not say anything at all, that there's something in there that begins to shape us in a new way, that makes us gentler. That statement, there but for the grace of God go I, like sometimes I think that statement is abused, but also the gang member who went away to prison for 2 years, whose dad he never met, whose mother had been sexually abused by the husband and dad, I shouldn't be surprised that he might kill somebody one day. Because the amount of love that he had in the first 20 years of his life was like an eighth of a teaspoon. The family was wrecked. The community was wrecked. It doesn't make it okay. But the things that he faced in childhood and the loneliness and the lack of appropriate parenting, of attuning, co-regulating, there just wasn't any of it there. And so our willingness to sit and learn about new, there's a YouTube broadcast done by Anderson Cooper on grief, and he has talked to many people, half an hour to an hour, about their grief stories, and it informs my own. Because I didn't lose in the way that everyone can lose to feel grief, right? There's many sources of grief in our lives, and it's just been so informative and just has me kind of stroking my chin, as it were, and thinking about, oh, that's what, I had a friend that said that, and I didn't know what she meant. Now I know. So part of capacity is being willing, I think, to continue to expose ourselves, to some degree, in the suffering that does exist in the real world and the rest of the world, so that we have knowledge. All right, we're going to go to, pardon me. I said I didn't have any allergic reactions. I'm gunky today. Inside your body, at this moment, can you identify one cue of safety and one cue of danger? In your workplace, the same question. In your household, the same question. Chat with your neighbors about it for a little bit, and I'll bring you back to tell me a little more. Inside your body, at this moment, can you identify one cue of safety and one cue of danger? And you know what? It's okay if you don't have an answer for these. I'm just posing the question. In your workplace, in your household, safety, danger. I turn it over to you. I'll gather us back together. I know this is kind of a weird one, but I'm curious to hear what you have to say. Inside your body, can you identify a cue of safety or a cue of danger? If so, share. Silence.
I'm sitting next to a wall for a reason.
You're sitting next
Next to a wall for a reason.
a wall furry?
Just my position in the room. Like earlier, they were like, "Come up front." It's like, no, I'm gonna stay.
Right.
I'll take it.
I got you. Yes, indeed. A cue of safety. I don't know if any of the rest of you have this, but I almost am never willing to sit in the middle of a row. I have to sit on the edge. If I gotta run, I gotta run. I'm not happy if I get stuck in the center. Safety. A cup of coffee that is waiting. Some friends that I hang out with for a week, once a year in Oregon. I wake up and I go out to the, go out to the kitchen and there's food and coffee waiting for me. That just feels so good. I don't, in the rest of my life, I'm on my own and have to do it for myself, and it's a gift and makes me feel safe and loved. In your workplace, one cue of safety, one cue of danger. You had a good one for danger. When do your guys, if they're supposed to be back at
3 o'clock, right? If I'm expecting them back at 3 and they don't show up till 5 or 5:30.
right? So a work group goes out, and are they coming back in time, or what's going on that it's another hour and a half and they're not back yet?
Cue of safety could be like as Mom shared about the daily schedule. What is expected
Yes,
to avoid the confusion?
right, right. Yes,
Cue of safety for me would be, I put my trust in Jesus Christ, and He's with me all the day long, so what do I have to fear?
right. My trust is in Jesus Christ the day long. What else do I have to fear?
My cue of danger in the workplace is when I'm supposed to be talking to people and my brain goes blank.
There you go. I like that one. It's a good one. My cue in the workplace is I'm supposed to be talking to people and my mind goes blank. All right.
In my workplace, in the classroom, if chaos is beginning to break out,
Yes.
in any form, that's a cue of danger.
Yes. In my classroom, if what word did you use? Chaos. If chaos is starting to break out, that's a definite sign of danger. Absolutely.
Something I've been trying to process, John, you made me remember it, is that I've discovered recently when my two boys, who are 3 and 2, start laughing from the other room, my body senses that as danger. And so often I'll walk in and they're fine, like they're just having a great time. But I'm like, oh, what are they doing now? And
Right.
they're walking in and they're being so pleasant.
But there have been a few times when you found them doing something they weren't supposed to do, right?
Shaving their heads.
Well, there you go. It's normal. You mean your kids, I did that all the time. At home, hearing my kids laugh in another room, and I feel panicked until I go check on them. And usually they're fine, but one time they shaved their heads. I love that. Any more? All right, let's see what's up next. We're headed in for the home stretch. Let's see, what do we got left?
One thing I'd like to add on the cue of safety in the household is when Mom is feeling well, that is the glue.
Totally, when mom is feeling well and things are organized, supper's underway. Yeah, definitely. I do some training with the local domestic violence clinic staff in Harrisonburg, and sometimes the people who come through the door are just, things are just really bad in every way that you might imagine it. And they do have to do some work to take care of themselves, to not carry all that pain home, to not try to fix. And I asked them, if you wore armor to work to keep you safe in the midst of walking with people who are very broken, and like in the last couple of years, a dad laid in wait for the family to show up for a court date and stabbed more than one person. They live with a fair amount of possibility of explosive violence and danger. And I asked them, what's in your arsenal? What do you wear in your mind, spiritually, psychologically, cognitively? What are you thinking about? How do you think about what you might wear to keep yourself safe? Nobody wanted to answer the question. They could not engage it. I'm not sure why. You can't force people to say something they don't want to say or don't want to talk about, but I thought it was really interesting that it made them really, really uncomfortable. They're all pretty young. Maybe they feel like as social workers they have to be all in no matter what. I'm not sure, but safety and danger are interesting things to be curious about in the lives of the people that are around us. Autonomic anchors. This is from Deb Dana, and Deb Dana talks a lot about encouraging clients, encouraging all of us to move through our days with an anchor in safety. One anchor in safety could be that I'm a follower of Jesus Christ, and I know safety in him first, and so I know he goes out with me and comes in with me. That's a possibility. They hold you when experiences threaten to overwhelm you and can help you find your way back from dysregulation to regulation and to stay there. Who are the people or animals in your life who bring you a sense of feeling safe and welcome? We'll work on all three. What places in your world bring you a sense of belonging? We know, at least for some of you, that nature is a strong influencer, that being in the woods or being outside is really something that helps you feel safe and good. And the last one is, what are small things that you do that feel nourishing and invite a sense of connection on a daily basis, and a sense of connection with yourself, of knowing, what is my emotional state? Am I in or out of my window of tolerance? How do I feel right now? So the first one is people or animals that help you or help you have a sense of safe. What places in your world bring you a sense of belonging, and what are small things you can do to feel nourishing and invite a sense of connection? Think about those for a minute, jot an answer or two, chat with your neighbors. Together. Who are the people or animals in your life who bring you a sense of feeling safe and welcome? So I'm going to answer for once. I used to volunteer with Guide Dogs for the Blind and learned a lot of their training techniques because we were part of a group that was training puppies together. There were puppies in my life all the time. It was the best hobby ever. Right now, in fact, my friend just sent me a text. I am working with someone who has a son who has autism, and he's in hyper arousal a lot. And they really wanted to get him a dog that could help him calm down, but they are not dog trainers, and so they hired me to help Rainbow be a super chill pup. And they feed me once a week as well, and we talk as adults for 30 minutes usually after the training, which is lovely. So having a place to go in the evening where I'm expected, and actually people are expecting me, that is delightful. And I love that dog. He's so sweet. He's just the best ever. People or animals in your life who bring you a sense of feeling safe. Silence. We're almost done, guys. Your hubby. Oh, that's the best answer ever. Thank you.
My cats, my siblings.
Oh, your cat and your siblings. Beautiful.
People that know
People that know my
my deepest secrets.
deepest, darkest secrets. Absolutely. And that's no small thing. That is no small thing.
Actually, earlier, I included my prayer group as support group. in
Your,
chat. I dismissed it now.
your prayer group at church. Beautiful. Anybody from this side of the room?
Well, I heard three of us in the front row here mention mentors.
Yes.
And,
Yes. Can be such a gift in so many ways. What places in your world bring you a sense of belonging?
My garden.
My garden. That's a good one. Even though I hate gardening. Joy gets real. Where else?
My home.
My home. Yes.
Quiet place by the stream.
Quiet place by the stream. Yes, absolutely. It's the best. My church. Yay. That's a good, hopeful word.
My rocking chair.
My rocking chair. That's beautiful. And number 3, what are small things you do that feel nourishing and invite a sense of connection on a daily or weekly basis? What are small things you do that feel nourishing and invite a sense of connection on a daily basis? Was this modeled when you were kids? I wasn't in my house. Someone had to teach me how to do this.
For me, being a transplant to Kansas and kind of having a love-hate relationship with the weather here.
Yes.
I try to observe and express gratitude for every day that it's not windy or that it's not 120 degrees or whatever. But no. So I do try to do that. And
It's
share
beautiful.
with clients on the phone.
Yeah, so a gratitude, you're living in a place that isn't like the last place you lived, and it can be very windy, and it feels like you're in a hot oven that has its own fan. And be grateful, find elements of gratitude in the midst of it all. It's a good one. 1 or 2 more.
I enjoy being
You enjoy feeding your hummingbirds? Oh, aren't they the best? Their hearts beat like 460 times a minute. How is that even possible? They're amazing. One more. We're almost out of here, guys.
Morning coffee on the patio with your wife.
Morning coffee on the patio with your wife. That's beautiful. Yeah. It's the first thing I do when I get up, is go make a cup of coffee. All right. We did that. Let's see. This is more anchoring and surf. It's not really that much different. This one's a little different. Let's see. I think I have maybe one more activity. And then it goes to, well, we could do this. Let's do this. So I wrote a grounding activity. It's another way to get back into my window of tolerance if I'm out. And it's something that sometimes we can invite other people that are, when somebody is dysregulated, but you're not sure you should tell them that they are. Sometimes a task like this can actually have great power, and you don't ever have to say anything other than, hey, let's try this together. So I wrote this. It's shaped around part of the Psalm 23. And so I invite you to sit comfortably in your chair. You might want to take your shoes off so you can feel the floor. Some people sometimes sit on the floor, sometimes people stand. Do what is relaxing for you. And as we prepare, take several deep breaths. Breathe in on 4. You could hold for 4 and breathe out on 4. Or breathe in on 4 and out on 8. Take some deep breaths, and I will too. And the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Feel the chair beneath you, the floor beneath your feet, and take several deep breaths again. Us lie down in green pastures. When is the last time you felt deeply relaxed, able to lie down in a pasture without worry or fear? Remember the goodness of those moments. Maybe sit with that for a little while. Feel the chair beneath you and the floor beneath your feet. And take several more deep breaths. He leads me beside still waters. Remember a time when you have sat down by a river or a stream. God, our good shepherd, meets us in the busyness of our lives, and in stillness, in his stillness, we can rest. Take several deep breaths again. us in the path of righteousness for his name's sake. And we are safe within his presence. We are safe here and now, for our lives are found in the palm of his hand, and it is in him that we live and move and have our being. Feel the chair beneath you and the floor under your feet. Take several deep breaths. Quietly for a moment. And then come back into the room with all of us. Should we all now go take a nap? How was that for you?
Confession of anxiety. It was very hard to not go ahead of you.
Because the
Very
words
hard
were
to
up
follow.
there
It's very hard not to just stay with
to
you.
move. Yeah. You wanted to shoot past me and go on? That's okay. Confession's good for the soul. And I could have extended it, and maybe it had, well, for one thing, I often don't have it up where you can see it. So then you're just focused on listening. Yeah. And that's fair. Grounding techniques don't always work. We're in many different places in our head, right? Any other comments?
I've done similar things, and it's always interesting to me. You feel the ground in the chair, your fingers, hands and fingers, kind of weird feeling.
Yeah. When we do these kinds of activities, you're definitely activating prefrontal cortex, and you're probably quieting your amygdala if you don't feel the anxiety to run ahead. And that's fair, because we're not all in the same place at the same time, right? And I'm sure you guys have things to do when you leave here. We're almost out of here, guys. You don't have to answer that question again. How we show up in the world emotionally, behaviorally, spiritually, with our friends, clients, colleagues, and family matters. Nurturing our children and ourselves shapes our ability to relate, understand, decode nonverbal communication, listen well and deeply, and feel empathy for others, and hold space for those who are struggling, suffering, recovering. All of this is happening on the background of a brain that is capable of change. If you don't take anything out with you today, take that one thing. Plasticity and change is possible. Our brains, our bodies, and emotions can learn to attune to others and even to God. Our brains, bodies, and emotions can help us co-regulate with children and with everybody else. And we can learn to identify when we need help, when we are slipping out of our window of tolerance. Here are 3 other books, 2 by Deb Dana, that some of the exercises that we've done today are pulled from these materials. And The Dawn of Sunday, the Trinity and Trauma Safe Churches, it's a really well-written, he's a little wordy, but he says a lot of really valuable things for people who are following Jesus and trying to figure out how do we do this thing well together. How do we do this and honor Jesus and honor ourselves? And they're worth reading if you're looking for reading material. And that, my friends, is the end. Thank you for being here.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. You've been a great audience. It makes my life a lot easier if you're willing to talk. All right.
Thank you very much for coming.
This was very good to have you.
We all really